It's 10:48 p.m. These are the notes of Robert Butts. This is Seth Speaks, Chapter 4, The Nature of Personal Reality, Part 8. Let's begin. Jane had spoken for Seth at a deliberate pace throughout the delivers in a rather dry voice. Her trance had been good. This proved to be the end of the bookwork for the evening. Seth came through with 5 additional pages of material for Jane and me, however, and the session ended at 11:45 p.m. This is session 621 on October 16th, 1972. It's 9:40 p.m. on a Monday. Seth spoke through Jane 5 times last week. On Monday and Wednesday evenings, he furnished material on this book, plus some personal material for us, discoursed at length Tuesday night in ESP class, spoke briefly Friday afternoon to a visiting editor from Time magazine, subject Freudian psychology, and on Saturday evening talked informally to a group of our friends about daily life in Italy during the time he had been a minor pope in the 4th century AD. Reincarnation-wise, Seth had first mentioned his papal experience in an ESP class in May 1971. See Chapter 22 of Seth Speaks. I made just a few notes on the Saturday night material after our guest left. We've been discussing current population problems when Seth came through to tell us that in the 4th century, infanticide, at least to his knowledge, had been quite common. Before a child was baptized, it was considered to be the property of its parents, who could do with it as they wished with no stigma attached. Surplus children, who would have been an impossible burden upon the economy of the times, its housing, food supply, etc., were simply killed before baptism. Once the child was baptized, however, he became a sacred being possessing a soul and the right to life. Seth added that our records of those early centuries are confused as far as the church, baptism, and children are concerned. There was quite a bit more to the session, but I didn't think my memory of it was clear enough for accurate notes. Now we begin the session. Good evening again. Good evening, Seth. I am not minimizing the importance of the inner self. All of its infinite resources are placed at the disposal of your conscious mind, however, and for your conscious purposes. There has been, on the one hand, a too great reliance upon the conscious mind, while its characteristics and mechanisms were misunderstood. So that proponents of the conscious reasoning mind above all theories advocate the use of intellect and reasoning powers while not recognizing their source in the inner self. The conscious mind was therefore expected to perform alone, so to speak, ignoring the highly intuitive inner information that is also available to it. It was not supposed to be aware of such data, yet any individual knows quite well that intuitive hunches, inspiration, precognitive information, or clairvoyant material has often risen to conscious knowledge. Usually, it is shoved away and disregarded because you have been taught that the conscious mind should not hold with such nonsense. So you have been told to trust your conscious mind, while at the same time, you were led to believe it could only be aware of stimuli that came to it from the outside physical world. On the other hand, there are those who stress the great value of the inner self, the emotional being, at the expense of the conscious mind. These theories hold that the intellect and usual consciousness are far inferior to the inner unconscious portions of being, and that all the answers are hidden from view. The followers of this belief consider the conscious mind in such derogatory terms that it almost seems to be a superfluous cancer that sprouted like a growth upon a man's psyche, impeding rather than aiding his progress in understanding. Both groups ignore the miraculous unity of the psyche, the fine natural inner workings that exist between the so-called conscious mind and the so-called unconscious. The incredibly rich interaction as each gives and takes. This marks the end of Chapter 4. Seth speaks the nature of personal reality. Part 8. Let's talk about it. So here Seth is emphasizing the importance of both the conscious mind and the inner self, highlighting how they work together in a unified way. He criticizes two extreme viewpoints. One, that overemphasizes the conscious mind's role, ignoring its intuitive capabilities, and another that elevates the inner self at the expense of the conscious mind, portraying it as inferior. Ultimately, in this passage, Seth is stressing the need to recognize the harmonious interaction between these aspects of the psyche and their shared resources for a more comprehensive understanding of human consciousness. If you've enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, sharing with a friend, and of course, subscribing for more. What did you think about this particular passage? I thought the prelude was quite interesting about the children. Leave it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Tony Victory, a wolf uncaged. Until the next time, thank you.